get him on the drums as well. And as fans of Fulham, Cardiff and Norwich contemplate life back in the Championship next season, the club's owners will be counting the cost of failure. All three will hope they can bounce back, but the financial burden of relegation will make a tough job a whole lot tougher.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Relegation from the Premier League may feel like the worst thing in the world for fans, but far more frightening for clubs and their owners is the money they stand to lose when they drop out of the world's richest league.
She goes away.
The new bumper £5.5 billion TV rights agreement signed at the start of this season means whoever tops the league this year stands to pocket an eye-watering £100 million in total prize money. Even mid-table mediocrity will earn a club around £70 million. One leading sports finance specialist believes increased exposure to lucrative overseas football markets has driven this latest deal through the roof.
The recent deal broadcasts to about 220 different territories all over the world. So you're talking about hundreds of hours of TV exposure, and with that will bring with it additional revenue. So it makes it really important for teams to stay in the league, and that's why we see teams perhaps gambling, particularly in January, spending big monies on transfers and player wages to make sure that they can retain their league position.
But what of those clubs that are relegated? At least £60 million will be given to each demoted team, which sounds generous, but those funds aren't delivered all in one go. Payments are spread across 4 consecutive seasons. The aptly named parachute payments are designed to soften the financial blow that comes with relegation.
Well, the intention of parachute payments is to allow clubs to balance their books, but we really should be building in lots of relegation clauses. There shouldn't be a need for a team to have a parachute payment. They should be able to budget accordingly.
Demoted sides don't just lose TV money, revenue on game day is also affected as fewer fans filter through the turnstiles. Statistics show that teams can expect anywhere up to a 30% decrease in the numbers of fans attending home games in the season following relegation. Even if your side is a yo-yo team and bounces back at the first attempt, there's still an expected shortfall of around £50 million from spending just 1 year outside the top flight. Recently relegated sides QPR, Bolton and Blackburn are all currently suffering under the weight of crippling debts built up after years of big spending. More alarming still is the fact that, in the Premier League era, a staggering 10 teams have gone into administration within 5 years of being relegated.
It's sometimes very difficult to get rid of what we might call mediocre players that are on high wages, and that's exactly the problem that teams like Bolton have had, signing relatively modest players but for big money.
For newly promoted teams like Leicester and Burnley, the message is clear. Don't get carried away.
Let's face it, when you get promoted to the Premier League, everybody knows that there's a lot more money there, and everybody wants a slice of that cake. This is about probably finishing 15th or 16th in the league, just about outside the relegation battle, which is not what fans want to hear, which is probably not what boards want to hear. But if you're able to do that, preserve your Premier League status, then you can build for the following year.
For Cardiff and Fulham, the Premier League ride is now well and truly over, but they'll be planning on a quick return because despite the size of the recent TV deal, amazingly it seems when it comes to football and money, the sky's the limit.
We keep saying that the bubble's got to burst at some point, but every time we say that we're proven wrong. The game, I think, has still got some way to go in terms of its growth. I think as a global sport, a lot of people look at the Premier League and want to be part of that, so I can't see the increases in revenue generation certainly slowing up just yet.
We've been talking about the football pyramid. It's not really anymore, is it? More of a skyscraper in the distance between, the elite clubs and the bottom end of the football hierarchy. It's immense now, isn't it? And Gareth, is that gap still bridgeable in the true sense? A bit harder and harder?
Look, I think clubs can climb through the divisions. Whether they can get into the top 7 or 8 is a different debate. I think you can see a Burnley this year who would have had one of the lower budgets in the Championship, and that's achievable. But how high they can go in the Premier League, it's not the investment to buy players, it's the wages. To be able to attract the best players, you have to match the wages. And unfortunately, the end of the season, Premier League table tends to replicate the wage bill very closely.
Sean Dyche is Burnley boss. He'll be here next week. He'll tell us all about that. Let's have a look at the bottom of the table. We're talking about whether it reflects the wage bill. I don't know if it does at Cardiff City. At the bottom, Fulham above them. The Michael Jackson statue apparently being blamed for that by Al Fayed. He said it was unlucky.